Hey everyone, it's Jessica Michaels here with A Cherry on Top Crafts, and today we're featuring one of my favorite things for Technique Tuesday, which is cut files. So I have grabbed the Snow Day Vibes digital cut file from the Cherry on Top shop, which I'll link below for you, and I cut it out on my Cricut machine just in some white cardstock, and then I decided to do some ink blending on my background with some speckled egg distress oxide. You can see there it's kind of splotchy. It's not exactly perfect. That's exactly how I wanted it to be because I am a grungy kind of distressed scrapper anyways. And then I'm just adding some stenciling here with a snowflake stencil, and actually this collection that I'm going to be using today comes with a set of stencils that are just gorgeous. They're layering stencils in snowflake design and they are just gorgeous, but I already had these ones from my stash and I have a ton of snowflake stencils, so I didn't grab them. But I just stenciled some snowflakes on there with some Uncharted Mariner Distress Oxide, and that's one of my favorite colors in the Distress Oxides. And then I just simply watered down some white gesso to flick on some white splatters. I did use gesso for that because if I would have used white acrylic paint, sometimes the paint reacts to Distress Oxides and kind of turns a yellowish color, and I wanted them to be really, really white, kind of like a snowball fight. So I did stick with white gesso on the splatters, and then here I'm just going to go ahead and start backing my cut file. So I've got it cut out from my Cricut machine here. You can see it on my mat there. I've already pulled it off, and I've just grabbed the negative pieces of my letters. This is how I quickly back my cut files and cut the little pieces to go behind the cut file. I just simply take the negative piece from my cutting mat and I place it directly onto my pattern paper and then just cut out an outline out around it, just leaving a little extra on there so I have something to glue down to the back side of the cut file like this. I'm going to do that for all my letters, and I am using the Echo Park Snow Day collection to pull out all of these gorgeous patterns and back my cut file today. So super easy and simple today. I am going to add a little extra something to my cut file, which you'll see here by the end of this layout. So make sure you stick around for that. And I will show you all the little tips and tricks that I do with my cut files to just kind of make them pop. I do cut out the middles of my B letter here using my X-Acto knife. I like to place down the negative piece of my letters here and just simply cut out the middles so I know exactly where those little pieces need to go here, and then I can glue them down perfectly where they need to be. So that's my cut file. It's pretty much done. It's gonna go right about here where I did all the ink blending and stenciling. My splatters are pretty much dry at this point, and I've got two larger photos today, which isn't like me. Usually if I'm using multiple photos, I'm using small photos, but these, I already had these printed in, they're about 3.5 by 5 inches in size, maybe a little smaller because I did trim them down a bit. I trimmed off some of the top and the sides just to get them both to fit on here. But I did start with 3.5 by 5 inches and then just trimmed them up a little bit to make them both fit on here. But they were both just so good from a snow day. My kids were off school, and then I had my nieces and nephews are in this photo as well, both of these photos. So my boys went to my mom's house, and we all live in really close proximity to each other, so they actually all kind of got together at my sister's house and just had a fun day playing in the snow, which was great because I still had to work even though I had a snow day. I do work from home, but I still had to work that day, and my kids still got to enjoy the snow, which was really great. So I chose these goofy photos for this layout today, and then I've got this kit that I've kind of created myself from items from the shop. So I've got this crepe paper little wordy bit, word phrases sheet there on the left that I'm going to use bits and pieces of, I think, and then I've got this rub-on here. I have these little set of wintry rub-ons by 49 and Market. They are just wonderful, and I wanted to add one of these up here. It says all about snow day, has all these cute little phrases on it, and it just looks like a little grungy, kind of like a stencil or a stamp. So I wanted to add that little guy up there and just create another little focal point. And then I'm just going to start embellishing this. So something I like to do with cut files is add some word phrases over top of my cut files. So I'm going to add that little chilly one It's a little chipboard piece from the Snow Day collection by Echo Park. And then I'm just sifting through these little tags and frames, seeing what else in here I can add. And I did decide not to use that one, but I do add those two that are laying by my bone folder there that are just like little dangly tags. And I ended up using them with some twine and just kind of making them look like they're hanging on my layout. I did use this frame though. What I like to do with frames sometimes, if they're not big enough, I like to cut them down and use them on the sides of my photos as little border strips. So that's exactly what I'm doing here. I did end up matting my photos with some white cardstock and then some pattern papers from this collection as well. And then I'm just going to go ahead and glue my cut file down at this point. I know it's not going to go anywhere. This is where I want it to be. I'm just going to go ahead and use some Nuvo Deluxe adhesive to glue down my cut file and overlay it on my photos because those are all adhered at this point. And then I can go ahead and use a little bit extra adhesive on this chipboard piece. I do like to reinforce my chipboard pieces with some Nuvo glue just to make sure that they stay sticky over time in my books, because I found sometimes those adhesive pieces on the backs of the chipboard, sometimes like over time in your book, it seems to lose its stick. So I found that it works better for me if I use a little bit of that Nuvo Deluxe adhesive while I'm doing the layout. That way I don't have to go back and fix it later if it falls off. So I've got the chipboard elements here and I've got the enamel dots. I also have this little sticker book from this collection. So I'm going to add a few of these little wordy bits here and just pop a couple in here that are different colors and just add a little bit of dimension up there with these snowflakes. And I just love the way that this is looking with all of these cute little layers and just little bits and pieces. I'm going to end up adding a bunch of those enamel dots as well. I love these little mittens. I think they're so sweet. I just wasn't sure exactly where I was going to put them. So you see me kind of moving them around a little bit. And then this hat. This is something I love to do with cut files too. I love to put little hats on my letters. I don't know why. It's just something that I think is just super cute. And I love to do it with these winter layouts when I have hats. So that's something I do. And then I also like to doodle on my letters as well. So you'll see me do that here towards the end of this video. And I'm just layering up little snowflakes. So I'm going to pop a couple of these up with some 3D foam squares just to give it a little dimension and a little pop up off the page, and just adding little bits and pieces here and there just to kind of round out this layout, create a good visual triangle, and kind of create some balance in here so we're not all kind of side heavy on one side. It's kind of like diagonal on this one. I like to go heavy on the top left and then heavy on the bottom right just to create that balance. So just adding a bunch of these little enamel dots now, and then I'm going to grab my black pen and just do some quick doodling on my Snow Day letters because they're looking a little bit too white and bare. So I wanted to make them pop a little bit too and just give them a little extra something so they're not just kind of blending into the background. So I just use a regular, it's kind of like a jelly roller pen. And it's kind of like my go-to for journaling or for doing little doodles on my letters just like this. And I'm just creating some lines and some dots. Nothing crazy, but it does add just a little pop of something to your letters just to make them stand out a little bit more. And then I'm just going to take my date stamp here that is from the shop and stamp my date at the top. And then just add these little tags in here in the right. I am going to pop this top one up and then add some black and white twine around them and just kind of thread it through here. And then I will grab my little tiny attacher stapler by Tim Holtz and staple down these little ends here because I can reach them from the side. Sometimes if they're too far in, I can't reach, but I do like to staple those down wherever possible. And then I'm going to end up gluing down these tails so they're not all crazy and flying around the page. So that's pretty much it at this point. The only other thing that I'm going to add now, and I know you guys are thinking, oh my gosh, she's not done yet. No, I'm not. I thought, you know what? One little finishing touch here. I'm just going to add some simple little X's just by hand with some embroidery floss. I like to use the black embroidery floss that comes in this set of black and white. I'll make sure I pop the link down below in case you want to grab that from the shop if you want to do some hand stitching on your layouts. This is a quick way to do it. Just poke some holes in there and just go about your business here. I do like to tape down the tail on the back side of the layout so it's secure, and then I just go back and forth and create my little X's. So here's what the finished layout looks like. Absolutely love how this one came together and love using cut files. It's one of my favorite things. So if you want to grab that one from the shop, I'm going to link it down in the description below along with everything that I've used today. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope I've inspired you to create something beautiful. Bye-bye.